You're in tune to the FuseBox Radio Broadcast.
Turn the music up inside my session. These folks gotta hear my message.
Bringing balanced black radio to the masses.
All right, everybody, 1 2 1 2. What's going on? You're now in tune to another session of the syndicated worldwide FuseBox Radio Broadcast, bringing the balance back to black radio since 1998, whether it's on your FM dial, internet radio station, podcast, or cultural website of choice. You got myself, DJ Fusion, in the mix for this special episode this week. And this episode is a mini version of a panel I attended at the New York Media Festival that was held at the Museum of Jewish Heritage on Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. The title of the panel is called Technology, Humans, Curation, and the Future of Music Discovery, which basically got into how people are getting into these music discovery platforms in the first place and what's going to be the best one that doesn't have just exactly the best technological touch in terms of finding things, but still has a human touch to it in regards to you finding out new songs that you dig and all of that. And the panel consisted of a lot of interesting folks, including the head and co-founder of Next Big Sound and Pandora, Alex White, DJ Natasha Diggs, Francois Vaxelaire, who is the founder and producer of Delight Radio, and it was moderated by the co-founder of Mixcloud, which you can check the FuseBox Radio out on, cheap plug, Nico Perez. And it was definitely a very interesting thing seeing how people want to try to break down finding out who's listening to what via data, but still one way or the other having to have that human touch to make this type of music discovery thing worthwhile. Like, even if you're going through the Excel spreadsheets and studies and all that type of stuff, it still has to be a groove that people are hopefully going to naturally feel instead of having music just shoved down people's throats. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and listen to this particular panel. And you can check out all of the great stuff that happened during that particular week, since they also touched base during the New York Media Festival on video games and VR and TV as other forms of media at mefest.com. That's mefest.com. And you can always check out the FuseBox Radio family at our official website, FuseBoxRadio.com, or our blog site, blackradioeffect.com. On those sites, you got all the information about how to reach out to us, let us know how you feel, and just all other types of good stuff. So check out this panel from the New York Media Festival, Technology, Humans, Curation, and the Future of Music Discovery, and enjoy, and hope folks learn a little something new. All right.
Going to be on Technology, Humans, Curation, and the Future of Music Discovery. So this is going to be really interesting. I like this crossover. We also have a DJ on here, so this is fantastic. I'd like to introduce Nico Perez, who's going to take it from here.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you to all the teams here for having us at the conference today. Peter mentioned, my name is Nico Perez, co-founder of an internet radio platform. It's called Mixcloud. We host radio shows, podcasts, DJs, that sort of thing. Check it out. If you haven't already, we've got free iOS app on shows. And I'd like to give a big warm welcome to the panelists today here. Everybody is kind of involved in the world of technology, payments, and curation. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about music discovery, how it's changing with technology. A lot of the services are changing the way that we approach music, and I'd like to ask each of the panelists maybe say a few words to introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, and also if they're happy to share a recent discovery of an artist or a band or something that really excited you recently. That'd be great. So here with Alex.
Hi everybody, my name is Alex White. I'm the head of Next Big Sound at Pandora. I co-founded Next Big Sound in 2008 with two other guys, and we started tracking the online music activity of every band in the world across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Wikipedia, Tumblr, Instagram, Pane, every place where music was consumed online. And our mission has been to take all this data and make it actually useful for artists in the music industry. And that's really what we're continuing to do at Pandora, reporting all the Pandora activity to the music industry and running the team there. So a recent discovery of mine was a band, an artist called A Boogie with a Hoodie. Has anybody heard of him before? So we started creating 3 new charts for Pandora: Pandora Predictions, Pandora Trendsetters, and Pandora Top Spins. And the Trendsetters chart is which emerging artists have added the most new station creations in the last 7 days. And I've never heard of this artist until he was number 2 on the Trendsetters chart last week. People are adding. We were talking about it at the last stage, but check him out.
My name is Natasha Diggs. I'm a DJ. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. Some parties here in the city. Every Friday I join party called Soulinthehorn. And I'm also part of this 45 party called Mobile Mondays. One of my recent musical discoveries is this cat named Prosecco. And I learned about him. He's kind of known as the trap scat kid. So he does the jazz, he plays sax. He's very musical, but he has a kind of trap aspect to it. And I learned about him from DJ Jazzy Jeff, who has this DJ playlist retreat every year. So I went to that a month ago, and it was a collaboration of musicians and DJs, and he was there. So yeah.
Right, so my name is Francois Vaxelaire. 6 months ago we founded in Brooklyn 100% independent online music radio called The Lot Radio. It's basically a vacant land since 40 years in Brooklyn that we turned into an online radio station that is funded by a little coffee stand that we host in the same container. It's sort of a weekend shipping container. And so basically all my music since we opened 6 months ago is discovered through that little container. Because we're there from 8 a.m. to midnight every day. And the best highlight we had since the beginning is, without a doubt, Pane, who's the co-founder of Rush Hour, a really respected record store and label from Amsterdam, who was supposed to come at the radio to play 30 minutes before going to play in a club next door, and ended up playing more than 5 hours because he couldn't stop. And it's by far the best mix we've had on the radio since we started.
So, good stuff. So I thought we'd kick off the questions kind of in a very macro sense, sort of 30,000 foot level, and just ask you guys in general. We've seen an incredible explosion in growth of the internet with Big I over the last 20 years or so, and each of you are kind of somewhat involved in some way with this cross section of the internet and music technology. I'm wondering if you could just touch on a little bit how it's affected you personally, but also in professional capacity.
So the way that when you first hear about a new band 10, 20 years ago, you take a whole set of actions that you don't take anymore. You don't write it down or get in your car and go to a Sam Goody or a tower like you used to. You might pull up on your phone and listen to a YouTube video and watch it, or streaming service or download or whatever your consumption mechanism is. But just the whole way that consumer behavior, all of us in this room and beyond, has changed, has allowed a lot of data and measurement to come into play that was never available before. The word of mouth and the spread of music that's always been around for all of human existence is just magnified and amplified and sped up and a lot more trackable than it's ever been. So the internet's created obviously a conduit for music to spread faster and farther than ever before. And I think the exciting part of the way it's impacted me is just the ability to then collect all that information, try to understand what all of that actually means, and how the trends of artists going from playing, in their garage and headlining a nationwide tour, try to unpack a little bit more of that black box on the way, how artists are spread.
I remember you guys put out a sort of industry report every year, and you kind of identified different key stages, right? Maybe share a few of those.
Sure. I talked earlier today on the actual details of the numbers, so I won't go too far into it now, but there's 5 artist stages that we've identified: undiscovered, promising, established, mainstream, and epic. And there used to be benchmarks with gold and platinum records and chart positions, and over decades the music industry had an intuitive understanding of, hey, an artist who's just starting out on their first album maybe should do gold and hit this sort of chart position, but on the second album will go for platinum, and those sort of heuristics. I think there's a huge opportunity now to provide clear benchmarks and milestones that artists can understand, because just the fact that you had 5,000 plays yesterday, it's hard to know, is that good or is that bad? How does that compare to other artists like me, or maybe ones that are 2 or 3 steps ahead of us in our career? So I think that's a really rich area of identifying benchmarks for artists to compare themselves against as they do a lot.
Good stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about artists.
Yeah, a lot of what you already covered, but as a DJ personally, it saved my back, because carrying records was how we were playing music. So vinyl, whatever we're using now, immediately download files, a lot of times on the fly. At a gig, sometimes somebody, you might even download it on the internet right then and there. Remix or so it makes that really accessible to have a huge library of music to carry through everything. And apart from that, though, it also changed the way we listen to music. So whereas before it wasn't a record store, and to find an album that was a whole package piece. Now it's mostly about the single mix or playlist or whatever. So it's really changed that aspect, because before it was a whole package. Artists put more care and time into even in artwork and in that
I remember, just to touch on briefly, that moment in time when people started transitioning from playing vinyl to digital. I had a friend who was a DJ, and he turned up at a club once, and the bouncer was there, and he said, "Yeah, I'm here, I'm the DJ at place tonight." The bouncer looked at him and said, "Where are your records?" Pulls out this USB stick, and the bouncer just laughed at him and said, "What is that?" But it's now most people I know play Francois?
So definitely we're internet radio, so we want everything to be included. But it's interesting to notice that actually I think because in 6 months we kind of got a lot of press and a lot of visibility in a lot of different music scenes in Europe and abroad. And I think the whole thing is that contrary to other online radio stations, because there are a lot of online independent radio stations that are doing a great job, but we had a real place, like a real container, a real vacant land where people could come and meet, etc. So definitely the internet was the echo chamber for the project, but the most important value for me was that real location, which is a magical little place in Brooklyn with a view of the city. We were really lucky to find it. And without that location, I wouldn't have never started the radio because it was so difficult to get a release of that place that most of my friends were telling me that I was totally crazy and I should just rent the studio and push it and start it on my radio. But I felt that it would have never picked up because then you just lost in a lot of noise. So the replay saves, the offline place saves the radio.
I'm curious, did you see the location first and thought,
yeah,
I need to put it in my radio station there?
No, it's literally like that, yeah. I walk in front of that triangle is famous in the neighborhood because it was empty for many years. It's incredible. And everybody wants to do something with that triangle. And one morning it was for release. And that morning I was walking to work. I was depressed about work. I'm doing something on the triangle and 10 meters later I knew I was to do it. And I knew it made sense. The fact that the place was there, the place made sense for my radio. I would have never done it in the car wash.
Cool. All right. The next question I kind of wanted to explore a little bit is this idea that with the tools of production and the distribution channels that have grown through technology and information, there is now kind of more songs out there than ever before. I think SoundCloud recently put in 130 million songs, and all the music streaming services are putting in tens of million songs. Basically more than anybody could ever listen to. So I guess the question really is there such thing as too much music when we reach saturation? If not, how could both technology, you guys, and human curation, you guys, kind of help solve this problem of navigating this infinite library?
Well, I think we already passed the point where there's more music than any one person could listen to in their entire lifetime. So that was like the too much music point. And there's only more music every single day, which is great. Everyone who wants to write and record can do so, and that's been totally democratized. But in the old days where shelf space was the scarcity, now attention is the scarce element. So the real challenge is how, as an artist, you stand out amongst thousands or millions of other tracks and artists. How do you find your audience and grow your audience? And I think that it's not the catalog size anymore. For a while, a lot of the services were trumpeting how many songs and tracks they had. But I think we're seeing less and less of that as people realize that they're already all have more tracks than you could ever listen to. It's more about I think the areas of differentiation and curation is probably one of the biggest differentiating elements.
And can you, I know you're not working directly on the curation team in Pandora, but you kind of spoke to them in the past a little bit. Can you touch on a little bit how you guys go about it and how, I guess for some people know maybe the different history and how Pandora curates?
So Pandora has the Music Genome Project. Are people familiar with the Music Genome? So every song is encoded against 400 different characteristics. Musicologists who are going through and listening to these tracks. Each one takes 30 minutes or more to encode. There are 15 music curators right now, and they're responsible for different genres and being fully aware and immersed in each of those genres, and making sure that we have the music in the collection and that it's spinning appropriately. And then on top of that, human curation element, where it's all encoded by human beings. Then we put a lot of the collaborative filtering on top where people's thumbs, reactions, and other listeners are added on top of them. Always running lots and lots of different experiments to improve listening to people who like this also like that. It's very sophisticated, and that's what people have been doing for over 10 years, and it's kind of the best feedback listening experience out there by far.
As music, as artists, as actually, there's also and which helps us to figure that out. But so the more music that's out there, and the more possibilities there are. I think that's one of the things with music. That you're finding more niche blogs, radio stations, figure exactly to what it is you're drawn to. We're getting some sound, I know. Check out this radio station.
You were saying earlier that you got a few markets and things like that. Is that to kind of find a specific
That's more for my personal, my pastime is I like the sound. I like stumbling upon things. Because that's how I feel. That's kind of how I started out. Digging more online from other people. It's fascinating because we're doing this YouTube, doing a song, and then on the side panel, you're going to see the songs you don't like. It's like you don't even have to try that hard anymore. It's just all there. For me, I still go out, look at actual records because sometimes it's the very good stuff. The stuff that people aren't really putting on the playlists and stuff. And that's just digging a little deeper as a DJ. Some of these stuff is
I think 5 years ago I thought that everyone would be like that, diving deep and each of us finding our own niche of whatever exact type of music we love. And that's fully what we expected, but the more we look at the data, the hits are getting bigger and bigger and clustering more and more together. Earlier this summer, when we first launched the Top Spins chart on Pandora, it's the same for Spotify and other services as well. Of the 100 top spinning songs, 1 in 5 were Drake songs. Like a fifth of the top 100 this summer. And it's just the exact opposite of what I thought that the 100 million tracks would produce, which is everyone finding these healthy niches that they're able to explore. And certainly there are people doing that and able to go as deep as you possibly can go. The vast majority of people cluster around the big artists.
No, but I tend to agree that there's a huge shift. More and more we're seeing a lot of different platforms to listen, to experience music, to buy music, etc. So extremely different experiences. I think there's more room even for more platforms. Our radio is just a little tiny example, it's a ultra niche, but we are there, we exist, it works, a lot of people are listening to it. And even that's only the listening part of it, or even buying, when you think about Bandcamp, etc. But I can see that tendency even in, for example, festivals. Festivals used to be big, huge festivals in every country that everybody knew. Now, just in New York, I've seen this summer like burgeoning at least 2 or 3 little, this is not multi-festival, but small little festival that kind of really little scenes. Sustainable Youth, that was 2 weeks ago, is an incredible talented festival and high quality festival. And I think it's going to grow and grow and grow. So there is room for a lot of different things to happen. There's an ecology of things happening together. Pandora being one of the giants and everyone else, but there's room for a lot of different things.
So let's talk a little bit about that from an artist perspective. There's this huge number, a growing number of tracks out there. And they kind of have to, in a way, especially early days, come to the point of maybe some artists here in the audience, managers, people like that. And I was just curious from each of your perspective, do you guys have any tips or any thoughts on what did you do kind of break through?
So there's no magic bullet, of course, or playbook, but there's just a couple different archetypes or patterns that artists follow. And I think the best kind of universal advice is that it's all about experimentation and measurement. It sounds kind of cold, but that's the business side of the music business.
So let's say I'm a new artist.
So if you're a new artist, each week you could try something new, posting one song on a different platform and seeing which ones get the best reaction. For instance, a little bit of marketing money, let's say $50 a week, $200 a month. You spend $50 on Facebook ads 1 week, $50 on Google AdWords, $50 on YouTube ads, measuring and seeing what works for you and your fan base is going to be different than what works for another artist and their fan base. So I just think the rapid experimentation and measurement of results is really the key, because there isn't one do this and it will succeed. The shortest thing is getting on still terrestrial radio and mainstream television in terms of lively driving awareness, of course, but I think that's key.
I never know. I think it's just about you being true to your voice, finding that unique voice, meditation, and Yes, you're always going to see who's at the top of the charts and making sure that everybody is and whatever. But I think we're all here, we're here for a certain specific reason, and if you feel as an artist, I think you just have to find your true essence, and that is what is going to shine. I think there's a lot of copycat type artists, and you see them out on how something is done, and you think, okay, this is such a good deal. And it doesn't kind of fly by my heart. Some people that are lost in the past, and you just have to come from within and do the thing.
There's so much noise. Exactly, there's so much noise that I think if you really feel that you have something you have to share, then just concentrate on that. And I'm really super optimistic that it's going to arrive at some point. Otherwise, it's really cool.
Cool. So moving on to this, back to the topic of technology and curation. You know, one thing that we touched on a little bit is how it kind of moves with consumption. People aren't really buying albums and playlists. And you know, I think that to some degree, our sense of the value the value of sort of this experience, potentially the curation aspect, starts to become more valuable. So I was curious if you guys have any thoughts on that, and specifically in regards to kind of how to incorporate that value into the music system. So I know, Natasha, you're both and get out. And so people value the services for hearing curation. So I was just curious if you guys have any other thoughts on how technology is changing our views on the value of music and the value of curation. Good question. Do you find that, I don't know, say now versus 10 years ago, people appreciate the role of the DJ more?
Yeah, and I think in general, music curation is so important in all aspects of society, displayed from, television, movies, commercials, and music is so grand. So linking, curators, music directors, those are more and more important roles in place. And also with the growth of music, how much music there is out there. Songs are becoming popular based off of their placement in the ad, versus the other way around. You use a popular song to sell brands, so it's working both ways. And it is, curation is becoming more and more important.
It's more and more important. It's really tricky. Like the value, I don't. For example, on radio, like none of the DJs are paid. There's absolutely no money involved on the radio side, and because there's no money. And also, but again, I think that it's a symbiosis that we're growing together. They're helping the radio, they're coming for their shows, but they get legitimacy, they play every week, once a month, etc. People get to know them, they get booked more, etc. So we're growing both together, the platform and the people who are creating the content together. But that's a really specific example, but it's a tricky question.
I listen to more music now than ever, as a lot of people do, but don't have the same, can't possibly have the same focus on it as I did when I was spending $20 per album to sit there. So I think it's changing, and the frequency that I expect new music from the artists or the DJs that I follow has changed. I think everything just sped up.
Attention spans are
faster and faster. Speaking of which, we only have about 5 minutes left, so we wanted to open up the questions from the floor. If anybody has any questions, you'd like to get in before the end. You're good? I just shouted out. But
at the end, it's a lot of noise, and like if you have to take your time to listen to the music you love, support it, talk about it around you, etc. You're part of the solution, and part of the music we disseminate also. You have to be careful not to listen to all the noise that's around. You also without noise.
as a DJ, I just play this stuff over and over so that people get it. You know, like I mean, if there's something I really believe in, I'm gonna give it some extra burn. Like it's gonna play like I'm not gonna play the same set every week. I'm definitely gonna put a song in the mix or more so people know the words. They never heard it before.
Well, I think just using the creativity and like I listen to music where I find a song and then I just get obsessed with it and then I repeat like 100 times and I bring it home to my girlfriend and play it for her. But getting anyone to sit still for 3.5 minutes and listen all the way through a song is really difficult. I don't know if you've tried it recently, but just not having them check their phones, not having them skip to the next song, not having them do anything other than listen. Be in a car or at a listening party or somewhere where you kind of artificially no cell service, like slow things down around them. I guess I would just say like critics reviewing things quickly and posting things, at least they're listening to it and not a different album. It's hard enough to get someone to listen to something, let alone listen slowly and respond properly.
But also, like Beyonce's version of it is that we're asking a visual aspect that made people sit there and listen to the whole thing, maybe several times, because sometimes adding more elements to it after people slow down.
Got a question in the back?
Both, I mean, absolutely both. I mean, every way that I can get it at this point, we have to utilize it. I'm also going to go to the record store here.
We kind of naturally, since we started, we got surrounded by so much amazing DJs, musicians, music lovers that wanted to be on board at radio, and that showed that they were incredibly knowledgeable and experts in their field. I'm astonished by the level of knowledge that those people have. And it's been 6 months, some of them come every week with a new show, with like records, etc. So we are lucky, we're like surrounded by incredible people, and it really happens kind of naturally. We're growing word of mouth, every DJ come close to his friend, etc. So we're growing our groups like that. Yeah, I can talk about that all the time because I really think it's the key point of the project and how solid it is. It's because I see it every day, because our little triangle became really a little hub that attracts the neighbors that have been there for 20 years. They don't understand anything on our music, but they feel, they respect that it's an honest project, independent, etc. Also, a really interesting thing that's happening is that since we have 2-hour slots of DJ following each other, a lot of DJs that would have never met in real life are actually meeting every week, etc. And we're creating bonds between them and even collaboration that are coming along that would have never taken place. So I think for us, it's like really without that little place, it would be way weaker and way less solid. It's really everything is in that place first, and then the internet creates the echo chamber that makes it available for everyone, and I'm super thankful. And also an interesting thing is that I think the strength of that radio is that I didn't want it to be, I wanted it to be self-funded with the coffee shop. So it means that we pay everything to that coffee, to neighbors that come and have coffee in the morning. So it means that basically, it's hard to say, but we don't really need plays, we don't really need lights or anything. We just do whatever we love and think is interesting for people. And I'm going to buy espresso. Yeah, that we do the best. That's it.
I do love the physical, digital element. And all that we're trying to do is measure people's emotional reaction and connection to music, right? And so the ideal data source would be heartbeats and dopamine and a bunch of things that we can't yet get access to millions of people. And the second best thing to that would be, we can measure the lines around the block, how far those go, and how long they can camp out there, and the crowd surfers and that sort of stuff. That's not easy to measure. So the proxy for both.
How many seconds?
Yeah. The proxy for that is the online communication scale we can track for every artist on a daily basis. Starts from the physical reaction, it's all about human connection to music and how that's expressed online.
So I think unfortunately our time is up, but I'm told that there's beers somewhere outside or nearby, right out here. so we can continue the conversation outside. And thank you very much for listening. A round of applause for the panelists.
You can listen to the FuseBox Radio Broadcast via iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Podcast Addict, and your other favorite podcast players. Check out the FuseBox Radio's official website for our latest episodes, events, and more at FuseBoxRadioOnline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook at Facebook.com/FuseBox Radio Show, Twitter at Twitter.com/FuseBox Radio, and Instagram at Instagram.com/FuseBox Radio. Feel free to contact us at FuseBoxRadio@gmail.com to submit music for airplay consideration,